All right. You probably couldn't tell, but that was a very enthusiastic clap, which now that I think about probably sounds and looks creepy because the animated girl did not clap with me. But you know what? She's her own person. She can do whatever she wants to. I'm getting off topic, so moving on. Let's talk about the issue, or should I say issues, between Adidas and Payless. It all started in 1944 when Adidas America Incorporation first took Payless Shoe Source Incorporation to court. Adidas accused Payless of selling shoes that had Adidas logo on them, the 3 stripes that we all know of. Adidas then claimed that Payless has 37 shoe styles that were very similar to 10 of Adidas shoe styles. However, this was all settled in court when Payless agreed that they won't sell those shoes anymore, which then led to Adidas dropping the case. Fast forward a few years, Adidas filed their second lawsuit against Payless in 2001, claiming that they have violated the 1944 agreement by recreating the identical shoes once again. And although Payless's shoes were not double serrated, Adidas claimed that they were designed to appear that way. However, the court rejected Adidas's lawsuit when Payless claimed that the agreement clearly stated that Payless were not to sell shoes that were actually double serrated and that the shoes Payless were selling are non-serrated. 4 more years pass, which finds us in August 2006. Adidas filed their third lawsuit against Payless. Adidas stated that Payless had about 30 million Adidas knockoffs that were being manufactured in China, selling them for $370 million in Payless stores, and had generated about $120 million of profit from those shoes, or in Adidas's words, knockoffs. Adidas then continued to claim that Payless now have 231 knocked-off shoe styles, which is definitely more than the 37 knocked-off shoe styles mentioned in the first case back in 1944. Adidas then claimed that Payless, among other offenses, had committed trademark and trade dress infringement and delusion. And to prove its charges of infringement, Adidas had to convince the jury that Payless's knockoff shoes had caused confusion among the consumers in regards to who manufactured the shoes. Adidas claimed that Payless's actions resulted in 2 things known as initial interest confusion, which is confusion that occurs before a consumer purchases a product, and post-sale confusion, which occurs after an allegedly infringing product has been purchased and used in the marketplace. According to Adidas, Payless would display the similar shoes in their windows to draw consumers into their stores. And they also stated that if the consumer spotted other people wearing Payless's identical shoes, they would be confused about which brand the shoes are, which overall would influence their purchasing decisions. To assess the likelihood that initial interest and post-sale confusion occurred, the judge referred the jury to the sleek craft factors that were established in the 1979 court case between AMF Incorporation and Sleek Craft Boats, which then led the jury to conclude a few things. One of them being that the overall impression created by Payless's designs was in fact similar to Adidas's 3 stripes trademark and Superstar trade dress. Another thing they concluded was that confusion had actually occurred, and to demonstrate that, Adidas submitted a study to Ford showing the significant levels of confusion between both the brands' shoes. The Ford study involved 646 consumers that were likely to buy athletic shoes recruited from shopping centers across the United States. Unbeknownst to them, the consumers were then shown a photograph of the Payless athletic shoes and were asked to look at the shoes and imagine them being worn by someone. And then the photograph was removed from their site and they were asked who they think made those shoes. There were 3 control conditions, and those 3 pictures were shown. When shown the test condition, 47.47% believed that the shoes were put out by Adidas. And when shown the control conditions, both 1 and 2, only 5 to 10% thought that they were put out by Adidas. Ford then concluded that 35% of the consumers were confused about the source of the Payless shoes. Another 2 things that the jury were able to conclude were that, number 1, Payless intended to use design features similar to Adidas and to benefit from that use. And number 2, Payless intentionally copied Adidas' logo and shoe styles. The charges of dilution are the lessening of the capacity of a famous trademark or trade dress to identify and distinguish goods or services that are coming from a single source. To prove its charges of dilution, Adidas needed to convince the jury that the Three Stripes trademark and that the Superstar trade dress were famous and distinctive, and that Payless actually sold goods with design features that are identical to the Three Stripes trademark and the Superstar trade dress, and that by selling those goods, Payless had caused dilution of the distinctive quality of the Three Stripes trademark and the Superstar trade dress. In 2006, the federal dilution law had been changed to require that a plaintiff can prove the likelihood of dilution and not just the actual dilution. And even though I can't physically see you guys, I can tell that some of you are confused. But then again, I can't see you, so maybe you're not. But in other words, to make this easier and more understandable, a plaintiff is someone who brings a case to court against another person. Adidas claimed that Payless had caused dilution in two different ways. First, they claimed that they caused dilution through blurring, which occurred when Payless's shoes arose from the similarity between their design features, where they used Adidas's trademark and trade dress, which then impaired the distinctiveness of the Adidas mark or trade dress. Adidas also claimed that Payless had caused dilution through tarnishment, which refers to using design features that are identical to Adidas's famous trademark and trade dress in a way that harmed the reputation of the trademark and the trade dress because it associated it with an inferior or offensive product or service. Payless, however, refused to be charged of infringement and dilution, and they argued with the following points. They first stated that the 2 and 4 stripes that they have used on their shoes created no similarity between their shoes and Adidas's shoes, and that those stripes were merely used as decoration and they had not attempted to use them as a trademark. They also stated that stripes were very common on athletic shoes, and they even used K-Swiss, who had used 5 similarly angled parallel stripes on the side of their shoes for many years as an example. Payless then continued to state that the boxes that they use for their shoes clearly displayed Payless's own brands, which rules out any possibility of confusion among the consumers. Payless then continued to state that consumers at a Payless store clearly know that they are in a Payless store that sells Payless merchandise. And then they argued that Adidas had presented no evidence that consumers had actually confused their shoes with Adidas's shoes, and that Adidas had not presented any evidence of actual lost sales. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll be talking about the jury decision. Well, Adidas and Payless were in a huge debate and battle because Adidas stated that Payless stole their 3-stripe design, and Adidas sued them for this action. So after a long legal battle where Adidas were suing Payless over copyright infringement of their famous 3-stripes trademark on all but one of their 268 shoe models, like the court and jury ruled against Payless, ordering to pay $305 million. But of course, a few months later, the number was cut to $65 million. This was a record high for a copyright case, bearing in mind that this is more than double Payless's earnings in 2006. And then later on, a few months later, Payless were also sued by K-Swiss Inc. for similar actions, but this time they stole their 5-stripe trademark. And Payless then settled an off-court decision, paying $30 million. Payless paid a huge number of $65 million just for copyright. So it was like a massive loss for Payless. Another ongoing litigation between Walmart and Adidas was settled after that verdict too.